Hi everyone, my name is Lev Goncharov, and today we are talking about infrastructure as code and how to use the modern world GPT, LLM, and so on and so on. A couple of words about me. I've been working in IT for about 20 years, and I've seen infrastructure from completely different point of views, like system administrator, software-defined storage developer, SRE, DevOps, and software architect, whatever you call it. But personally, I prefer something like infrastructure engineer and simplifying. Very simple, very efficient. But from that experience, I learned that interesting things are possible. And in my project, we are taking care about enterprise clients who want to archive data. And my part there is to deliver the environments, to create the installer. It's not that big part, but crucial for our customers to be happy. And besides that, I also take care about infrastructure as code for development environments, how to create weird environments and make developers happy. In real life, I'm using ChatGPT or other LLMs for different use cases. The most weird one, maybe I got DNA test. I also got my blood samples test results. I uploaded it and found some correlations which were approved by the doctors. And I started to think, okay, if I can do very weird stuff with GPT at real life, maybe it's possible to do something at work. There are a lot of different solutions what can be used, but usually there is the problem that they are not really allowed to use at work. Yes, you can use it for your home needs, but at work it's not that easy. You should be compliant with different policies and so on and so on. So my context for the research was our infrastructure. It's presented as code. It's about 120 source lines of code in different varieties, like Python scripts, like Ansible playbooks, Terraform, Jenkins files, whatever, you name it. We have a lot. And from company policy point of view, we are allowed to use Copilot with different models. Definitely, I cannot upload customer data to them. I cannot upload secrets. It doesn't make sense. But it's the scope. And with that scope, I was curious, what can I do with LLMs at my work to make my life easy, maybe more complicated? We'll see. It's the journey. And I'm going to share some examples. For example, exactly this presentation, it's a code. It's stored in the repository, it's a bunch of markdown files, and also you might have another markdown files in your repository for documentation. It works fine. You ask Copilot to do something with your markdown, it works. It maybe correct missteps, correct some phrases, just works. There are no dubs. So the other scenario was a bit more interested. We had, first of all, a little bit context. We had this script, which had to detect versions of artifacts according to some rules. It's called getLatestVersion.py. And also, we have a bunch of Ansible playbooks, collections, and roles to prepare customer environments. Why should we run Python script before Ansible playbook to get the latest version if it could be part of Ansible somehow? So let's ask ChatGPT, and it worked. We provided the script, we provided quite long prompt, and it worked. Almost without corrections, just after some iteration, it worked. But it's a more or less standard case for developers that they have code and it works. It's not really about infrastructure as code. Documentation, yes, it can be. You have some roles, you have Python codes, it can generate. You provide some files, ask the prompt, generate me documentation. But again, it's not that interesting. By the way, I'm curious, please raise your hand if you use GPT at work for generating documentation. I'm using, okay, I guess about 60% or 70% of people are using that. And are you generating some code? Are there any vibe coders here? Okay. Or not that much? Don't be shy. Okay. But also, it's possible to use Copilot for some use cases like, okay, I have a Jinja template. Maybe you've heard about it, maybe not, but definitely you've heard about regular expressions. And it also usually works, usually. So I would say, but we are going to the most interesting part, when it doesn't work. Are you aware about Open Telecom Cloud? No? Nobody? Okay, we have our own cloud. It's B2B, but people use that. And documentation sometimes is not publicly available. Under the hood, let's say it's OpenStack. So I got the OpenStack documentation. I read how to connect Ansible dynamic inventory to OpenStack, and no luck. It didn't work. I tried to troubleshoot, and yesterday there was the very cool speech about art of troubleshooting. Just check it. There was advice: go to LLM and discuss your problems. I tried that. Technically, it worked. It proposed some ideas, some directions, but when I tried to, I almost knew the problems. I uploaded some Python files from SDK. I uploaded some inventory plugins. I uploaded my code, and nothing. It wasn't able to predict that I had very old tenant, that also OTC developers were not aware about that format. So things happen. Lack of context, it's, I guess, the biggest problem of GPT, and we will refer to that a bit later. There was a very important note here. When you try to debug something, you might expose your secrets. So you must be very careful when you open your config files with secrets, or if you copy-paste some commands from command line. It requires some attention during debugging session, but it's very easy to fail. Just keep in mind. Another use case, we have Ansible role for installing Java. Quite straightforward. We are downloading some zip packages, unpacking, and almost that's it. And there are some problems regarding key store generation. And in general, Copilot was able to propose the direction, how to fix it, and it worked. So I would say, if your domain, if you don't use any really specific stuff, modules, whatever, it will usually work. Work may be normal, maybe not. It depends on your prompt. Maybe some iterations will be required. But if you are going to bit wider things, for example, you have 20 lines of code of Ansible playbooks, whatever, and you want to understand how your changes will affect end users, your product, whatever. It might be tricky because, again, lack of context. Because LLM, it might not know about that there is, I don't know, flappy cable in the switch, and it can lead to some unpredictable issues. And in case of infrastructure as code, I prefer reusing software development lifecycle approach, and that approach requires human interaction, that people should understand what's happening in the system and perform some changes. I tried it with Copilot, but it was limited to, okay, you can add some files, but you need to add thousands of files. Maybe if you have your own model and you train it, you'll be able to predict something, but it's for future suggestions. So I would say that if you have more than 500,000 lines of code, you'll not be able to get some valuable output from that. So let's summarize what we have for now, and I would say the best description of LLMs, which you can use, which you can connect to your IDE and start using, it's like you have more or less smart junior engineer who can create the code. So if you want to create the playbook, which less than 500 lines of code, yeah, okay, it will work. If you're touching some area which is well known by LLMs, it might work. If you have good documentation which can be uploaded to LLM as a context, and if it's not outdated, yeah, it might work. But again, the level of expectation should be lower. You should think that, okay, I have junior engineer, he can explain me, but maybe it's better think about Copilot like, okay, you catch the flow, you're doing something, you're trying to troubleshoot, and okay, which params does have this model, or what's exactly happening in that role? It might work, but again, depend on the context. Now we are going to the interesting directions, what we can try to do with GPTs for infrastructure as code. Just to remind you, I had some limitations. I was allowed to use only Copilot, so I was not able to connect some agents or scripts to my Git repository and perform PRs. So I tried to export diff, export the attached files, and ask, okay, try to perform review. Yeah. Technically, it can review something, but reviews were strange. So I want to try, maybe for the next speech, who knows, create custom LLM, upload the project, and based on that trained model, to try predict some changes in the future. What will be after merging your PR? So theoretically, it can work. But I checked some projects for software development, and the commits which were generated, or sorry, not commits, which comments were generated, and they were quite floppy. There were too many words, so it looked annoying, and I guess it will be the biggest challenge. The other thing which we can try with GPTs, have you heard about testing pyramid for software development? Raise your hand. It was written by Fowler, but just think, you can use the same approach for infrastructure as code. You have some tests, and they are like pyramid. In the foundation, you have a lot of fast tests, and they are cheap. And the top of pyramid is end-to-end tests, which are very slow, very expensive, but they check the real use case. For example, you create the whole infrastructure by Terraform, provision instances by Ansible, and finally Selenium connects to your shop, put the book to carriage, and perform checkout. But the problem with infrastructure as code is that we cannot simply segregate part of your infrastructure and perform kind of injection to isolate your code and verify that it works. There are some ideas how to deal with that. The first idea is we can try to mock iterations. So in your playbook is written, I want to install DNF package. I want to install sudo as the target system. And theoretically, we can perform mocks. But there is another idea. We can try to share our code to GPT and or other model which you prefer or allow to use, and perform prompt like, okay, let's imagine that your CentOS-based operation system, you have that playbook, please apply it to yourself. Maybe it will be faster than running the real Docker or virtual machine instance and performing some tests in front of. But yeah, I tried it, and the result was quite disappointing. Oops, sorry. Something happened unpredictable. And here we are. Everything is back. And this idea, it might be useful in the future, but right now it just hallucinate and provide some generic output that some tasks are done, and right now I don't see that it's a workable solution. So let's try to sum up and switch to the discussion what you can expect from using LLMs for infrastructure as code. I'd like to see kind of discussion here. There is a QR code where you can read those slides and try to propose something. Okay, there is the question. I guess we need the mic. The mic.
Just repeat the question.
Okay, okay, I'll repeat. Are you talking about Cloud, yeah? The question was, is it possible to use Cloudy for that? Yes. In my case, Cloudy was as a backend for Copilot, and I was able to use. But the main limitation in my scenario, in my experiment was I was allowed to use Copilot. I was not allowed to run any, no, technically I can run some LLM and train them, but it's too heavy, too much money, and well, it was not the case, but I'm trying to search the opportunities to do that. Okay, other questions? We can, let's say, have you tried to use infrastructure as code and GPT solutions together? Please raise your hand. Okay, I see some hands, and I'm curious about your experience. Does it correlate somehow with my experience, or is it completely different experience? Okay. The first feedback is that it's hallucinating. But you tried what? The question, the response was that he tried to write some code with Substack. Okay. The other question. Okay, there was comment that this gentleman tried to generate some piece of Terraform code, but it became, again, hallucinating after how much lines of code approximately? At which age it started to hallucinate dramatically? So Okay, the comment was that it hallucinates on, let's say, unknown context, and if it's quite big enough. In my case, I would say that hallucination or strange behavior appears after approximately 500 lines of code. You can use it as a reference, just a rough number. Are there any other comments? Or maybe experience? Okay. Okay, this senior said that he uses GPT or what? He uses Gemini for generating bugs in the codes. It's kind of I forgot the name of the technique when you try to sorry? No. Self-function. There is a special technique that you try to fuzzering. It's called fuzzering. And for example, if you test Ansible, there is a step. It's called side effects, and you can create those side effects. And maybe it's an interesting direction for GPT. I've not thought about that combination. We can generate unpredictable side effects with LLMs and check that the results. For example, we are installing Java, and something is going terribly wrong during that, but we cannot predict, and LLM tries to predict, and we are checking, okay, do we have Java or not? Yeah, it might be an interesting case. And also, I used one technique. I asked GPT a couple of times, okay, prepare me prompt to, for example, debug this scenario. Okay, do that prompt better. And after that, I used that prompt. And I would not say that it really worked for debugging, but the similar technique for generating code when we tried to create Ansible lookup plugin from the script, it worked nicely. So very simple, very efficient. Okay. Any other comments? Okay, one more comment. Yeah, sure. The question was, have I tried to extend context with some extra information about the project? Yes, I. Yes, I tried that, and it was not ideal. I tried to upload our documentation about the project. I tried to upload some Confluence text from Confluence pages as a prompt. I tried like, you know that, just remind that, and after that I asked the very specific problem. But in case of debugging Ansible inventory plugin for OTC, it did not work. But when I tried to upload small context, for example, the description of the role, it was not really long enough, but it was able to predict somehow or provide better output or better documentation for the other class. For example, it reused our style. So yes, it works, but again, I have a feeling that it really depends on the context, on the domain area. On the public known domain area, it works not ideally, but acceptable. Okay. Well, if there are no any more questions, I guess we can finish, but continue in the couloirs. If you have some interesting, you can go to, if you know how to host your LLM, please go to Home Automation Meetup. We can exchange experience there. Okay, thank you for your attention.